So everyone's been excitedly waiting for the new Fantastic Four to release, and it's finally here. For comic fans, we're really excited to see just how well or poorly some of Marvel's most beloved and iconic characters are going to be adapted from the rich history of comics into these new cinematic versions that will be reaching an entirely new audience. Will they be done well, letting everyone know how awesome these characters have been for decades, or will they be done poorly, taking away the opportunity to see the characters comic fans love so much come to life on the big screen? Well, let's find out by watching the new movie and... Wait, what the... Oh my god, this isn't the new MCU Fantastic Four film. This is... Oh god, no! It's FANT4STIC! Oh god, no! Abort! Oh god, no! Oh, it's too late! I've already watched half the movie! Dear god, leave now! Save yourselves! Well, I guess we're doing this. Now, I think most people will agree this movie is god-awful, but how much of that is due to how different characters are from the comics? Could this movie have been saved with more respect to the source material? Or is it actually fairly accurate and just a straight-up horrible movie regardless? Well, let's take a look by applying the poor, innocent 3C system to every Marvel character in FANT4STIC to rate how similar or different they are from the comics, and then rank them from the least accurately adapted to the most. You know what? Screw that. Let's go most accurate to least on this one. No one gives a crap who the most accurately adapted character in this movie is. And for all those of you with the misfortune of having this be your first experience with the 3 C's, those C's are costume, character, and continuity. Costume rates a character's outfit or costume, their overall look, and their superficial physical characteristics. Character rates their personality, their relationships with others, and their powers or abilities. And continuity rates their origin story, their iconic moments, and their overall place in the world, universe, or timeline. So, for those of you who have not clicked out of this video already in horror at the abominable act we're about to undertake, let's start this list with the character who rated as the most accurate to the comics in FANT4STIC, aka the 10th most poorly adapted character, Reed Richards. Now, as an adaptation of comic Reed, this version is absolutely awful. However, like a lot of the characters in this movie, this is not an adaptation of the mainline Earth 616 universe version of Reed Richards. This is clearly an adaptation of the Earth 1610 Ultimate Universe version of Reed Richards, a universe from the 2000s where classic Marvel characters were re-envisioned for the sensibilities and styles of the time. As an adaptation of the main universe original Reed Richards, this version is awful. He looks nothing like him, he acts nothing like him, and nearly every element of his backstory and origin are completely different. But as an adaptation of the Ultimate Universe version of Reed Richards, he's still not that good. Like the Ultimate version, this Reed is quite a bit younger than he is in the 616 universe. Both versions are child prodigies who attempted to build a teleportation device in his garage and later enters a smaller, more successful version into his school science fair. In the comics, this is only a few months after his first unsuccessful prototype he created when he was like 11. In the movie, for some reason, this is 5 years later, with the same teacher who scoffed at him in elementary school judging his experiment in high school. Or, maybe the teacher held him back somehow and he is still in elementary school, judging by the other science fair entry next to Reed being a little kid. I don't know. Anyway, in the comics, he is recruited at the age of 11 by Agent Lumpkin on behalf of the United States to join a scientific think tank of young geniuses located in the Baxter Building. In the movie, for some reason, both Dr. Storm and his daughter are at this weird high school/elementary school science fair, not specifically looking for him or anything, just, I don't know, scoping talent at the local public school? And after being impressed with Reed's technology, recruit him into the Baxter Initiative, also located in the Baxter Building. Both versions are childhood friends with Ben Grimm, and both versions begin working alongside Sue Storm on their teleportation projects. In the comics, he starts a relationship with Sue, while in the movie, there's minor flirtation between the two at most, but more often he awkwardly seems to creep her out. And both versions meet another young scientist on the project named Victor, who they have a respectful yet altercative relationship with over science. In the comic version, while testing the teleportation technology in the Nevada desert in an attempt to teleport an apple, something goes wrong due to Victor tampering with the device last second, causing Reed and the others to inadvertently be teleported to random locations, having their phase space conditions altered by the accident to give them all abilities. In the movie, though, instead of this logical, modernized version of how the team got their powers, they change it to after finishing building the teleporter and having successfully tested it on a monkey, Reed and the other scientists and technicians who built the machine, for God knows what reason, just assume that they will be the first humans to test it instead of, like trained astronauts. The government who funded the project tells them that they're not going to send a bunch of nerdy kids on this mission, so they all get upset, and after spending the night getting wasted, they drunkenly decide to test the machine themselves. After teleporting to the planet in another dimension referred to as Planet Zero, and not the friggin' negative zone, Reed and the others start poking at random glowing green energy goo and are barely able to escape as those energies start just exploding behind them, affecting all of them as it touches them and causing bizarre physical transformations. Likely, why it would have been a better idea to send over trained professionals instead of a bunch of drunken dipshits. Their reasoning for undertaking this reckless, unsanctioned, unprepared, stupid mission is that everyone remembers Neil Armstrong, but no one remembers the guy who developed the technology to send him to the moon. This line actually tells us a lot more about how this movie was adapted than it knows, because like a lot of the comic lore, whoever wrote this sequence did not even bother to look up the name of the main person responsible for developing that moon landing technology. This kind of laziness is infuriating because all it takes is a 2-second Google search to find out that that guy was, let's see, Stanley Kubrick. Jeez. Anyways, this version of their origin is a crappy attempt to meld both the classic Fantastic Four's origin of making an unsanctioned rocket launch into space to beat the commies, and their ultimate origin of building a teleporter to travel to the N Zone. In the Ultimate Comic version, Reed's transformation is portrayed a little freakier than in the 616 comics, but in the movie, it's straight up nightmare fuel body horror, a vibe that permeates this entire movie for some reason, while also completely failing to capture that horror too. Comic Reed quickly learns to control his new abilities, but due to the attempted body horror aspects of the movie, Reed is forced to develop a special suit instead that maintains his shape and gives him control of his stretching. This is never actually explained or elaborated on though, as it is with so many of the ideas in this movie. While Comic Reed stretches and uses his powers in many creative ways, the movie version just basically generically stretches his arm to punch people or his body to dodge attacks. We do see him stretch his face to alter his appearance and hide his identity. And while Comic Reed has done this, the movie version also seems somehow able to alter his skin pigmentation slightly as well, likely due to his movie-exclusive power of no one making this movie giving a shit about how anything works. Neither the Ultimate version or the movie version have the gray temples of classic Reed Richards, though the movie version's hair is much darker than the Ultimate Comics. Both versions also initially wear glasses, and while the comic version wears them less often after gaining his powers due to being able to temporarily stretch his corneas, the movie version seems able to just stop wearing them altogether. One of the major differences between the two characters is that in the comics, though not being as much of a leader as the 616 Reed, Ultimate Reed is still a competent, capable badass, while the movie version is more of a timid, socially awkward, and likely autistic dweeb. While the comic version is confident and cool enough to get Sue to date him, the movie version chases her off with awkward talk like him thinking 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is an obscure deep-cut book that she wouldn't be familiar with, or asking the incredibly stupid question of if she's adopted. While the comic version of Reed gets pissed off and yells when Doom changes his equations without asking, the movie version timidly puts up a little bit of a fuss, but pretty much allows it. And while the comic version sticks around after the accident, trying to help the team because he believes that he was the one responsible for the malfunction, the movie version runs away for a year due to feeling, as he says later, useless to everyone. All of their outfits are much darker than in the comics, and they never get the iconic fours on their chests or are even referred to as the Fantastic Four. But we do see as Reed is about to come up with the team's name in what is likely the most well-written and beloved sequence of dialogue in cinematic history. With Reed telling Ben, "Boy howdy, we sure have come far since the garage," and Ben responding, "It's fantastic," to which Reed turns and utters those three iconic words, "It's fantastic time." Reed and his team do not become famous superhero scientist explorers like the comics. Instead, they fight one guy quick and are, for almost no reason, then given a huge government facility to use as they wish. Though we never see what Reed goes on to do with any of those resources due to the movie bombing so goddamn hard that it's never getting a sequel, and we're never seeing him again. Unless... Next up at the second most well-adapted character, aka the 9th worst adapted character more accurately, Dr. Franklin Storm. While in the 616 comics, Sue and Johnny's father was an imprisoned criminal, in the Ultimate Comics and this movie, he's a scientist who is still in their lives. Both versions run think tanks out of the Baxter Building for young geniuses to be taught and given resources to work on advanced projects, with one of those major projects being a teleporter to reach an alternate dimension. Both versions are the father of Johnny Storm and Sue Storm, but while in the comics Sue is his biological child, in the movie the director decided he wanted to race swap the Storm's iconic blonde appearances to be more honest with young kids to show them the world that they go walk outside and see, whatever the hell that means. And apparently, though the studio was just fine with them changing whatever the hell else they wanted in this movie, they were hardcore against switching the Caucasian blonde girl to matching her family. So instead, Sue is convolutedly Dr. Storm's adopted daughter in this movie. Both versions have a troubled relationship with his son, Johnny, wishing he would apply himself and reach his potential like his daughter has. They really don't look anything similar at all, with the movie version being a lot older, grizzled, bald, and much sterner. The comic version stays around after the team becomes the Fantastic Four to act as a mentor before much later being killed alongside half the population of Manhattan due to a tidal wave created by Magneto. While the movie version just kinda wanders around aimlessly after the government takes possession of the team for like a year, uselessly tries to stop his children from being used by the government, and then gets his head microwaved. So, there you go. Alright, and down to the 8th worst adapted character. We'll stop pretending this is a best adapted list at all at this point. Ben Grimm. Both the Ultimate comic version and movie versions of Ben have known and been friends with Reed Richards since elementary school. In the comics, they lost touch for years after Reed was recruited into the Baxter Building think tank, while in the movie they remained friends through high school when Reed was recruited into the Baxter Institute. In the comics, Ben eventually went to college, and during spring break was backpacking through Nevada when he learned his old friend Reed was conducting an experiment in the area. And upon meeting up with them, was invited to watch that experimental teleporter. The teleporter malfunctioned, causing Reed, Ben, and the others to be transported to different locations and caused physical transformations, with Ben increasing massively in size and gaining a rock-like skin. In the movie, though, Ben is called up by a drunken Reed at 3 a.m. in the morning to come test out the teleportation device he developed at the Baxter Institute. Ben, for some reason, listens and accompanies the team to another world where they screw around at strange energies and retreat back to the teleporter, with a bunch of rocks getting into Ben's section and fusing with the energies to turn Ben into a literal pile of rocks himself. He shares a couple minor similarities to the 616 version of the thing here, with the movie version showing apprehension at the mission, mirroring his worries about the cosmic rays during the space voyage in that origin, and Ben feeling even more personal resentment towards Reed for having specifically involved him in his experiments leading to his appearance. While the Ultimate Universe thing looks more or less the same as the 616 version after his transformation, the movie version wakes up as a living pile of rocks, slowly forming and pulling a body out of them at great personal strain. And though they look similar, one of the main differences between the Ultimate and 616 versions of the thing is the sleeveless costume the Ultimate version wears, while the classic thing usually just wears a pair of shorts. The movie version went a different path for the costume, by having Ben just wear nothing, forcing us all to see his entirely naked rock body and cannonly letting us know that the FANT4STIC version of Ben Grimm does not have genitals or an ass. He keeps his eyes, mouth, and nostrils, but down there, nada. Which likely leads to why his personality is so different. In the original comics, the Thing is initially pretty depressed about his appearance, with the Ultimate version being even more isolated and depressed, considering even ending it at times. But the movie version is depressed on a whole other level, becoming so hopeless and jaded he's willing to just become a straight-up killing machine for the government after being promised a cure for his condition he doesn't even believe will ever come. We also learn that this version constantly feels pain, which he tells Reed he's gotten used to over the past year. Though he does have that connection to Reed as an old friend, he shares none of the other relationships of the comics, barely even sharing a scene with Johnny until the last seconds of the movie, when they suddenly try to start making him act kinda like his comic version. And while the Ultimate version of the Thing gets his catchphrase, "It's clobbering time," from his high school football coach, the movie version gets it from his older brother, who beats him while yelling it. Jesus, what is wrong with these people? Alright, now down to 7th, we've got Johnny Storm. Both versions are Sue's brother and the son of Dr. Franklin Storm. In the Ultimate comics and this movie, though Sue shares her father's intelligence, Johnny really doesn't, leading to difficulties between the two, as he doesn't really want to imply himself towards greater education. In the comics, he's not involved with the creation of the teleporter at all, while in the movie he's recruited in by his father as an engineer to help build it, being said that he can build anything. Alright, Forge. Both versions of Johnny are into cars, as we see him racing one at the beginning of the movie, with both versions preferring to live fun, impulsive lives over studying and learning. In the comics, after gaining his powers, he's able to figure out how to turn them on and off pretty quickly, while in the movie he is initially shown to just be a straight-up flaming corpse, and then later is shown being constantly on fire and screaming, making me wonder if this whole movie was them accidentally adapting the Venture Brothers instead of Fantastic Four, which would explain a lot. The movie version is given a special suit that allows him to control his abilities, sometimes by adjusting a device on his wrist, and other times not needing to, due to his movie-exclusive power of no one giving a shit about how things work in this movie. Both versions are able to fly and hurl fireballs, and of the team, both versions of Johnny are the ones who enjoy their new powers the most, not being interested in being cured. While the comic version works alongside the rest of the team as the Fantastic Four, the movie version is detained by and trained by the military for a year, and is eager to get out in the field and start using his power to straight up kill people for the government like good old Ben does, causing a rift with his father who wants him to be cured. And while either comic version is known for his love of girls and dating, we don't see that at all in the movie, as the only other girl in pretty much the entire film is his sister. He barely shares a scene with Ben in the movie, so their classic comic dynamic is completely absent, except for one forced in and awkward little exchange at the end, limply implying that in some horrible alternate reality where we got a sequel to this movie, that they may have developed a similar relationship to the comics. And while the comic version of Sue is his biological sister, and though he can be a jerk, he clearly cares about her very much. In the movie, she's his adopted sister, which changes their relationship dynamic to being, well, I have no friggin' idea, because they barely talk in the movie, and when they do, it's usually just about the plot. One time they say, "Oh, it's good to see you," and that's about all the exploration we get into their relationship. Visually, he looks more or less like the ultimate version of Human Torch when he uses his powers, just an on-fire guy. And though he only says it quietly, he does say "flame on" to himself one time in a fall asleep and you'll miss it scene. Though in the comics, he usually says it with a bit more exuberance. And while his personality and excitement about his powers make him more similar to his comic counterpart than Ben in a lot of ways, there's one major difference that keeps him below Ben as an adaptation. That, of course, obviously being that in the comics, he wears a backwards baseball cap in his first appearance, while in the movie he does not. Oh, and they race swapped him. Now down to 6 with Sue Storm. In the Ultimate Comics and movie, Sue is the daughter of Franklin Richards and the sister of Johnny Storm, though in the movie she's adopted for some reason. Both versions work under their father in the Baxter Building think tank, where they meet and work with Reed and Victor. While in the comics, she has a fairly close relationship with her brother. In the movie, the few times they talk, they seem relatively distant from each other. And while the comic version begins dating Reed, the movie version talks to him only a couple times, one of which is super awkward and one of which is a little more friendly. While Sue is the initially more reserved, emotional glue of the team in the 616 comics, in the Ultimate Universe, her increased intelligence leads to her being more confident and assertive, often acting in a leadership role on the team. The movie version decided to adapt neither of these, and instead went with the bold direction of giving her no personality or role in the team whatsoever. She's pretty quiet and introverted, rarely talking with others or expressing herself in any way. We never get a strong sense of her relationship with her father, brother, Reed, or Victor because she's pretty closed off. She opens up a little bit with Reed for 1 second, but after that they don't share a scene together for a literal year. After the team learns that they're not going to be testing the teleporter themselves, Sue does not take part in their drunken pity party. When they drunkenly decide to test that device, they do not call her to join in, meaning she does not even take part in the mission that makes them the friggin' Fantastic Four in the first place. Instead, she just sees a signal that some drunken idiots have activated the teleporter and runs over to type on the computer to help them return, being caught in a blast of energy when they do, causing her to also gain powers. Like Johnny, she is unable to control her new abilities, randomly phasing in and out of the visible spectrum until she's given a suit that lets her control them. And while we see Johnny excitedly testing and training his powers, and Ben becoming a depressed murder machine, with Sue we see her training her ability to make a force field multiple times, but besides telling Johnny they need to cure themselves and agreeing with her father that he shouldn't help the military, we really don't get any sense of her feelings about what's happened. Like the comics, she has the ability to turn invisible and create incredibly powerful force fields that can carry others and block incredible amounts of force. She uses the force fields more often than the invisibility, though, because the plot doesn't ever really come up with good reasons for any of the team to use their powers much, unlike, of course, the classic 2005 movie. While in the Ultimate Universe, Sue's scientific specialty is in biology, in the movie it's some vague thing about pattern recognition, with her liking the patterns of music and claiming she can easily read people based on their patterns, though she really never shows this ability when engaging with other people. One very small, seeming nod to the comics is that it's stated she designed the environmental suits the group uses to go to that other dimension initially, mirroring her creating the Fantastic Four's uniforms in the 616 versions. But they all get new suits made by the government afterwards, and they never get 4s on their chests or anything anyways, so whatever. The movie seemed to completely forget Sue was even in it, so I guess we'll just move on. Alright, now entering the top 5 most horribly adapted FANT4STIC characters, starting with Mr. and Mrs. Richards. A lot of people online will try to sell you the bump kiss that this Mr. Richards is Reed Richards' father from the comics, Nathaniel Richards, the badass super genius multiverse and time-traveling father of Earth 616 Reed Richards. But there are 2 reasons this is just not true at all. The first is that this Reed is based on the Ultimate Universe version of the character, where his father was a man named Gary Richards, a regular man of average intellect who finds young Reed's experiments to be a burdensome annoyance, which is basically exactly how he's portrayed in the movie. The other reason is that in the movie, this guy isn't even his biological father anyways. He's referred to as Reed's stepfather, making him technically neither of these characters, even though he acts exactly like the Ultimate Universe version. We don't get a name for him in the movie. In the credits, he's just listed as Mr. Richards. As for Reed's mother, we learn almost nothing about her in the movie. We just see her in the background as his dad watches the game. In the Ultimate Comics, her name is Mary, while in the original comics, it's Evelyn. Either way, we don't get her name since in the credits, she's just referred to as Mrs. Richards. Hey, wait a minute. If that's his stepfather and he's named Mr. Richards, why the hell is Reed's last name Richards in this movie? Did they change Reed's name after his mom got married and changed her last name to that of her new husband's, but it wasn't young enough that he calls him his father, he still calls him his stepfather? Did she marry someone with the same last name as her dead or missing husband? Why exactly did they refer to him explicitly as Reed's stepfather when that's just not even a thing in comics, and then gave his stepdad the same last name as him? You know, I'm starting to suspect that some elements of this movie may not have been all that well thought out. At 4, we come to Mrs. Grimm. In the Ultimate Comics, Rachel Grimm is Ben's mother. He visits her after being away for a long time after the accident that turns him into the Thing. And when he visits her, she helps reassure him of some of his worries with some simple, humble wisdom, always calling him Benji. In the movie, we see her for like 2 seconds when Ben's a kid. We never learn her name either. They look nothing similar, and while the comic version seems to live in the suburbs, the movie version lives on a pretty trashy-looking junkyard. All she really does is yell at Ben's brother when she hits him, and while the 616 version of Ben did have a brother, the Ultimate version does not, as far as we know. Which, speaking of, at 3 we come to Daniel Grimm Jr. As I said, Ultimate Ben Grimm isn't ever shown having a brother, but the 616 version does, so we'll have to use him instead. In the comics, Dan Grimm Jr. is Ben's older brother. When they were young, his family was very poor, with his father being a jobless alcoholic, forcing Dan Jr. to make money for the family by committing crime with the Yancey Street Gang. When Daniel died, Ben eventually took his place on the gang until his mother died and he was taken in by his uncle. In the movie, Ben's brother is an abusive asshole who beats him while saying, "It's clobbering time," which affects young Ben enough that he spouts the line while fighting later in life. So he's nothing similar in any way. And apparently they couldn't be bothered to even look up his damn name since they just tossed the name Jimmy on him in the movie. Alright, and now, the second worst adapted character in all of FANT4STIC is Dr. Doom. In the Ultimate Comics, Victor Von Doom was another of the young students working at the Baxter Building think tank, where he met and worked with Reed Richards and Sue Storm. In both the movies and comics, he's arrogant, believing his scientific abilities are superior to Reed's or anyone else's. Though they used a similar backstory as the Ultimate version, they decided that comic fans would love it if instead of calling him Victor Von Doom, he was instead called Von Doom, like the 616 version, making him a terrible adaptation of both characters. In the comics, he arrogantly changes Reed's calculations at the last second, causing the malfunction that transports himself and the others during the experiment instead of just an apple as initially planned. In the movie, though, after being pissed that the government was going to send trained astronauts on the mission to another reality instead of random untrained scientists, he, Reed, and Johnny all get drunk and decide to travel through the teleporter themselves instead. On the other side, Victor almost immediately just straight up pokes his finger in some green energy goo like a friggin' moron, triggering a reaction that makes green energy goo explode everywhere across the planet. The group tries to escape, but Victor is covered in the stuff and seemingly melts, being left behind. In the Ultimate Comics, Victor Von Doom resurfaces after the accident with his skin turned into a metallic material similar to the Thing's rocky skin, also gaining claw-like hands and goat-like legs, though the writers and artists, well, completely forget about that aspect of him from time to time. He gains the ability to shoot shards of metal from his body, expel noxious gas, and regenerate. He's also incredibly strong, and like the 616 version of Doom, is a brilliant scientist and sorcerer. In the movie, Doom is found a year later, still on the planet in that alternate reality. The environmental suit he was wearing during the accident is literally fused to his body, which is just absolutely disgusting. He's gained the completely random abilities to microwave people's heads until they explode, as well as some form of telekinesis powerful enough to rip holes in concrete walls. He can also shoot out blasts of green energy, create powerful force fields, and control the energies of the alternate reality Planet Zero while there. And though he uses these powers in absolute full-on onslaught against random people who were not even attacking him, he only seems to use a small fraction of them against the team when they try to fight him and stop his master plan. So sadly, we don't even get a messed up scene where he tries to explode Reed's head but can't due to his stretching. No, that would have taken some creativity. The Ultimate Comics version is similar to the 616 version in that he's a megalomaniacal narcissist, controlling the minds of people with his microfiber-laced dragon tattoos and forcing them to worship him as their savior, and trying to take power for himself many times, including conquering his home nation of Latveria. In the movie, his motivations are completely different than 616 or Ultimate Doom. He distrusts the shady connections between corporations and the government, and uses his genius as a shut-in freelance computer technician. After helping to complete the teleporter, he becomes angry by the idea that the government will be taking over the project and will likely use the military to weaponize it in some way. After returning from that other dimension, though, he's also gained a militantly anti-human environmentalist ideology, believing that humans poison the earth, and so don't deserve to exist as a species. After becoming empowered by the energies of Planet Zero, he returns to Earth and steals the teleportation machine in order to create a black hole to consume the entirety of Earth, in order to do something vague for what he considers his new home, without humanity around to mess things up. In both versions of the comics, Victor has tried to conquer humanity multiple times, but as an egomaniacal sociopathic narcissist, straight up wiping out the entire species is incredibly out of character. Who will worship Doom's glory? And while he does randomly put on a hooded cloak he somehow made or found on Planet Zero to kinda emulate his comic look, we also see that, like Ben, the movie Doom clearly has no genitals, which is what is with this movie and turning everyone into Porky Pig. Should we check poor Johnny quick to see if he's just a flat fire down there too? Alright, and here we have it. The impressive honor of being the #1 worst adapted character in FANT4STIC goes to Moleman. In the Earth 616 comics, Moleman is Harvey Elder. Due to his antisocial tendencies and his unkempt and relatively ugly appearance, he felt himself shunned by society. While exploring, he discovered the underground world of Subterranea, where he became ruler of the underground creatures known as the Moloids. Using his Moloids, as well as other bizarre monsters he finds deep within the Earth, Moleman launched war on the surface world in revenge for their rejection. He's the Fantastic Four's first villain, with an iconic appearance and gimmick, and has been a recurring foe well into the modern day. Well, in the movie, instead of being any of that, he's just some guy who works between the government and the Baxter Institute to secure funding for the Institute's experiments. After completing the project, he tells the scientist who built the device that they're going to be sending NASA astronauts through it. And after those idiots decide to go over themselves and get all messed up, Harvey takes custody of them all, recruiting the Thing into the military with the promise of a cure one day. He's super excited about going back over to that other dimension to hopefully empower more soldiers with similar abilities. But when Doom is recovered from the other side and Harvey questions him, Doom just blows up his head. The end. Now, there's at least one of you already typing, yo, that guy's name was Harvey Allen, not Harvey Elder. But his name was Harvey Elder well into filming, until it was changed last second during the crapload of reshoots this poor cast was put through. Similar to how Doom's name was Victor Dumashov until it was changed much later as well. And I should point out that because this was an adaptation of the Ultimate Comics, and the Ultimate Moleman is totally different from this normal Earth 616 Moleman, that does lose him some points as well. Well, most of the time, we can have no real idea why they'd change a character so much that they're not even that character at all. But due to the well-documented nightmare of this production, we can actually get a glimpse into how this kind of thing happens. In the original script, Moleman was going to be a primary villain. But when the writer, director, and studio all started fighting each other about what this movie should even be like, the character of Harvey Elder was changed to being more similar to what we see in the final film, but with the potential left open for him to somehow develop into Moleman in a future movie. But when things started deteriorating even more during production, and the studio stepped in to try to get this piece of crap finished, his role was completely changed, and they decided to just kill off the character instead, with presumably the one guy in production who'd ever read a comic coming in and pointing out the name, causing someone to tweak it a bit. But all I can say after looking through all of this crap is that this movie probably would have been a lot better if they just kept it simple and had the team just fight friggin' Moleman as the main villain. Well, there you are. You now have the answer to a question you likely never asked, because there's a good chance you never even bothered to watch this movie. If you're one of the few defenders of this movie, let me know below what you liked about it and how sad you are that you're never, ever gonna get a sequel. You know, I think that after looking through all this crap, we can all agree that no matter what the MCU's done with the Fantastic Four, it'll be hard to top this as the worst adaptation of the team. But never underestimate the MCU. That's the 2005 team and the 2015 team done. I'll be doing the 2025 version as soon as I possibly can. But if you're a real OG and a hardcore completionist, let me know if you want to see me delve the depths of obscurity here and do the unreleased 1994 version as well, man. There's some weird stuff in that thing. And if you like this kind of stuff, make it official with an official like, subscribe, and then hit that bell to be the first kid on your block to see these new videos as they come out. And make sure to go follow me on X/Twitter so you can scream at me about how wrong my spicy hot takes are on various pop culture topics. Until then, as Dr. Doom always rips off from Ghostbusters, there is no victor, only doom.